Okay, did you get the sign?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Welcome, teachers, to Educator's Edge, Enhancing Instruction. Today we're going to be looking at TEK 5.10b, the formation of sedimentary rocks and fossil fuels. If you are watching this asynchronously, these are the materials you will need to have on hand to work alongside us. So if you do not already have these ready, please pause and get these collected before you hit play to continue. All right, I am Kristen Conrad. I am the elementary science specialist. Today with me, I have Jenna Houdon. She's our science IST. By the end of our session today, you will understand this targeted TEK. You'll see how it's assessed on both unit assessments and STAR. You are going to experience 2 labs, and we're going to briefly review the instructional resources you have available to support you in this TEK. Okay, so please, for our norms, if you can please keep your camera on. We like to really see you participating in the hands-on pieces and see your lovely faces, of course. And use the chat. We are going to ask you some questions and ask you to drop your responses in the chat. So please participate and just staying till the end and filling out that feedback form. The feedback form at the end is how you receive credit for your attendance for today's session. So please stick with us to the end. And if you have any questions, drop them in the chat at any time. We do have time set aside at the very end where we will address any questions that have been put in the chat or just give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you may have. Okay. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jenna.
So we're going to do things just a little bit different this time compared to other sessions you have participated in with us. Because we are carrying out 2 separate models today, and one of them involves taking some time, we are going to start the Explore for our formation of sedimentary rock model now, in hopes that by the end of our time together, our little sedimentary rock will have started to form. So, with that being said, we are going to be following this guiding question: how can we model the formation of sedimentary rock? You see, for our science and engineering practices, this investigation is going to focus on things like collecting observations and measurements as evidence. We obviously are going to develop and use a model. That's the whole point of this TEK, right? And this learning target. And then also with using models comes about their strengths and their limitations. So the benefits of using a model, but also the limitation of having a model. For your recurring themes and concepts, we are going to be centered around the idea of patterns. So how the sediment moves and drops, also the way the pattern looks. We will explore some cause and effect relationships, and then looking into the stability and change within these systems. So those will be your recurring themes and concepts for this lesson. In the chat, I just placed the document for the Explore, the document that you see on the screen in front of you right here. So if you can take a moment to open up that document from the chat, Kristen's going to stop sharing, and then I'm going to share my document camera, and we are going to take part in this Explore piece together. So just give me a sec. Okay. Can everyone see my document camera? I see some head nods. Yes. Okay, beautiful. So I know you're opening up that document. I want you to see this document. It's titled Explore Formation of Sedimentary Rock Model. This document is in your curriculum, okay? And we're going to carry out this Explore piece together. So in just a moment, I'm going to have you crush up your Jolly Ranchers, just like you see I've already done. This is the hammer we recommend, but of course you can use any sort of hammer, right? This is a good child-sized hammer. And then following that document, we will add our Jolly Ranchers in layers to our cup, and then we will place our heavy books on the top. So as I'm giving you time to do this, I too myself We'll also be doing it on the screen for you all to see. Okay, any questions I can answer to help you be successful in setting up this Explorer? Don't hear anything. Okay, so go ahead, start crushing up your Jolly Ranchers and adding them in layers. I'm going to do the same, and I'm going to actually try to turn my camera so you can see the layers potentially. It smells so good. Don't be afraid to sneak some Jolly Ranchers too to eat with the kids not around. Just tell them it's the teacher tax. So I know you're going to take just a little bit longer than me because you need to crush your Jolly Ranchers. But as you can see, once we get them in layers, we see those distinct layers. And now we will set our heavy items on top. Get my second cup here. Don't forget that second cup. So it's actually squishing all of your crushed Jolly Ranchers. Might need some stability here. That's So as you guys finish up, if you can, have your camera on you, and I'm going to see if there's anyone available to spotlight. I'll give you about 1 more minute. Oh, sorry, Edna. I accidentally stopped your video. Feel free to turn it on whenever you have a moment. I didn't mean to stop you. I wanted to spotlight you. We see y'all.
Sorry,
We're
I got
doing
hungry.
good,
That was fun hammering.
right? Get a little aggression out.
Yes. Here, I can scoop this over. Someone's still making it.
Just a friendly side note while we're waiting. When I bought my bag of Jolly Ranchers and I opened them up to put the similar colors in baggies, I bought a bag just like you see on screen here, that blue bag, and it only had 3 purple Jolly Ranchers. So maybe, just to be on the safe side, purchase more Jolly Rancher bags than you think you're going to need in case they don't provide you with a good, variety of colors. Because out of the whole bag, I only had 3 purple. And I was like, man, I need more than that. Okay, so as you finish up, I'm going to go ahead and release you all back to Kristen, and she is going to share with you guys some historical data. So let me stop my screen and take off the highlights.
Okay, are we back to my slide deck?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. All right, thank you, Jenna. So we are going to take a look at just a little bit of historical data, looking at the TEKS. So in 2024, on the Science Star, as a district, we had 28% of our students show proficiency on that standard. So we identified this TEK as a hotspot TEK. And in response to that, we created essential labs, created the scripts that support teachers in carrying out that lab. We linked teacher demo labs, and we saw some improvement, which is really good. Even though I did learn that it could have been that in 2024, this TEK had a question with a high level of difficulty. And then in 2025, it had a lower level of difficulty. But we're going to just say we had a large improvement because of the teacher demo videos. We're going to say that's what it is. But we had great improvement. So very pleased with that. Hopefully, we will continue the trend in 2026. And then just looking at the unit assessment data, as a district, we had 49% of our students show mastery. So let's take a look at the standard. We're going to unpack the TEK. So you can see I have the TEK posted for you there. Model and describe the processes that led to the formation of sedimentary rocks and fossil fuels. If you will discuss with your team what are the verbs and drop them in the chat for me, the verbs of the standard. Very good. I'm seeing model and describe. And then what are some of the key words that highlight the content piece of the TEK? And drop those in the chat for me as well. Good. Sedimentary, fossil fuels, sedimentary rocks, formation, processes. Good. Very good. Okay. So the verbs are model and describe. And please remember the full TEK is students will model and describe. So it's really important that by the end of this learning target, the students are modeling and describing the processes that led to the formation of sedimentary rocks and fossil fuels. So we have one learning target where students will use models to explore and explain the processes that led to the formation of fossil fuels, sedimentary rock and fossil fuels. So we have both pieces under one learning target. The other thing I wanted to take a look at is Jenna showed you at the beginning of her model teach some of the science and engineering practices and recurring themes and concepts that students will engage in as as they discover the answer to the guiding question. But this TEK is a unique TEK in that it actually has a science and engineering practice embedded in the TEK. And it also has an RTC, a recurring theme and concept embedded into the TEK. So I listed those below. So I'm going to ask you to take a minute with your team and see if you can find any keywords or phrases in the TEK that make you think that showcase how the science and engineering practice 5.1G is embedded in that TEK. And what are any keywords or phrases that show you that the recurring theme and concept of cause and effect is also embedded in the TEK? And as always, feel free to drop any ideas, questions, thoughts in the chat. Very good. Very good. Okay, so I kind of made a key again. And so model is the verb, and that is the key to the science and engineering practice that students are going to develop and use models to represent a phenomena. So that science and engineering practice is incorporated in the TEK. And I highlighted that led to, because that's kind of your clue that there's a cause and effect relationship. So processes are the cause, formation of sedimentary rock and fossil fuels are the effect. So this TEK already has those pieces of 3D learning kind of embedded into it. So I just wanted to bring attention to that. We're going to jump into looking at how this standard is assessed. We're going to start with our unit assessments. So this is a question from your unit assessment, and I'm going to ask you guys just to look at it and as a team talk about what do your students need to know and be able to do to answer this question correctly on the unit assessment. And please note this is a short constructed response. I have it, it's kind of down. I don't know if y'all can see my cursor, but in parentheses and bold at the bottom. So I'm going to give you guys a minute, drop any ideas or thoughts in the chat. Okay. Yes, in the chat it says the formation process of sedimentary rock and the steps of the formation of sedimentary rock. And that is exactly right. They not only need to know the steps and processes, but they're going to have to be able to describe them in their own words. So, and write it. So this is going to be something you're going to want to make sure you give lots of opportunities for students to write the steps, aka process, that led to the formation of sedimentary rock. This is another unit assessment question. So again, if you'll take a look at the question and what do your students need to be able to know or do to be able to answer this question correctly? Good. They need to know compaction. Good vocabulary. You're going to, one thing that's going to be key is visual representations or models, and diagrams are models of the processes. So even right now, when I was looking at this, I can already see that if you do the lab where Jenna just started the model teach with you with the Jolly Ranchers, you're looking at the first part of D. And not to give it away, but I know some of you already mentioned you've done it. You're going to see something more like the right hand side when you're done. So if you do that lab and talk about compaction, there you go. You're going to set them up for success for this question. Okay, this is a drag and drop on your unit assessment, so it won't look like this for students. This is actually the answer document, but take a look at this. And how does looking at this test question, what does it make you think that you need to make sure you include in your instruction? Good. The process of the formation of fossil fuels, the order of events that form fossil fuels. Exactly right. So, and the key vocabulary, right? So, ancient organisms are going to be some key vocabulary. Layers of sediment, heat and pressure, long periods of time, millions of years, like including all of that vocabulary as you're teaching this concept will be very valuable to your students. Okay, so let's look at how it was assessed on STAR. Let's start with the question to your left. It's incomplete cementation model. So I'm going to give you a minute to look at that question. Okay, so this one, the answer is going to be D. Add enough glue to fill the gaps in materials. So a couple of things to note. One is you model, right? The more examples and ways to discuss models and that students are creating models, but here they're using a model. So when you're talking about limitations and advantages of models, as you're kind of teaching these, when you get to the part about cementation, it's hard to, like in the models you'll see we don't actually have something that necessarily completely, well, we do with the Jolly Ranchers, right? That stickiness. So just really talking about cementation, and if it doesn't stick, what could we do to make it stick? Add glue, things like that. But just really they have to know, what does cementation do and how could you model it? And basically glue, right, gets it all to stick together. So really talking about models. Also, if you're looking at now take a look at the question on the right, the model of sedimentary rock formation. This one has positions of the process labeled or numbered, I'm sorry, and is asking you to identify what's happening in position 2. So the answer to this one is going to be B, sediment is being dropped into a new location. And so again, this is a perfect example of a model, right? It's just a diagram of all of the things that happen to create sedimentary rock. And when you see some of our models that we're going to be doing with you, you'll see that this is going to be part of what happens. Okay, and this is the last one that was on last year's STAR assessment. I'm going to give you a minute to read this one. What do you think is the answer? Drop it in the chat. Okay, this one was interesting. The answer is A, and it sent a lot. I had conversations with a lot of people that didn't realize that. We've never really thought about it that way, but please note that heat is needed for the formation of fossil fuels and not the formation of sedimentary rock. So I think for me, when I think about it, I think about almost like with the formation of fossil fuels, it's almost like a change in state of matter or a chemical change and so heat is going to be really a major piece of making that change. Whereas, sedimentary rock is just everything really becoming smashed and stuck together. Sorry, that was not very academic vocabulary of me, but that is how it is assessed. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to hand it back over to Jenna, who's going to get back to our models.
Yes, so we carried out the Explore previously, where you all use that document to guide us through crushing our Jolly Ranchers, putting them in layers, and then placing our heavy materials on top of it. We are now going to go through the explain portion. So in the chat, I just dropped the link for the explain document, which again is found in your curriculum. So I am going to have you guys open that up, and I will share my camera with you all so we can move forward. Okay, so as you open up that document, on my camera, you are going to see a notebook example of what a student's notebook may look like after carrying out this Explore. So after the Explore, You know, we have our title, we have our drawing of what we're seeing, and then we have the steps that our students took, right? And again, how do I know those steps? It's because it was on that initial document. And then those steps are also on this second document that you just opened up, titled Explain Formation of Sedimentary Rock. And so what it has us do is it has us go through each step of the process and correlate that, the step in our model, correlate that to the step that happens in the real world, right? So our first one, it says, what was the first step in the process? Well, we crushed up our Jolly Ranchers, didn't we? We crushed up our Jolly Ranchers. So boys and girls, you can either answer in the chat or just out loud. What might this represent in the formation of sedimentary rock? Maybe some of them know, maybe some of them don't, right? But you teachers, based upon Kristen's reaction, because I can't see the chat, I'm going to guess that you said weathering. So yep, what we would do here is we would come in and we would add that in the explain piece, right? So yes, boys and girls, when you were crushing those Jolly Ranchers, you were modeling weathering. So I would add that in a different color. Can you see that red a little bit? Okay, beautiful. So yes, boys and girls, when we crushed those Jolly Ranchers, we were modeling weathering. And remember, weathering can be done by wind, water, and ice. Those are some of our things that cause weathering. So, ladies and gentlemen, what did we do after we crushed our Jolly Ranchers? We poured them into layers, right? Now, what step of the process in the real world might that be representing? They got it. Okay, so when we are taking that baggie, right, that's erosion. And when we are dropping it, then that is deposition. So yes, boys and girls, we poured those Jolly Ranchers into the cup in layers. And when we were doing that, we were modeling erosion, which was the moving, right? And deposition, which was the dropping. So teachers, are you guys seeing how we are referring back to that explore to carry out the explain?
And Jenna, you may just want to say, because I just don't want there to be any confusion. Like the pouring is still part of the erosion. That's the dropping. It's once it's settled, right? Once you
So
kind of
kind of
have
like
it
when we shook
settled
the cup.
in the cup where it's sitting. Now that's the deposition. It's stopped moving. It's settled. It's sitting in the
There,
cup. That might be, but I think it's fine how you have it. I just want to make sure
just in
that
case.
that's
Yes, 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 yes. So I'm not going to take you through the rest of it, but do you see how what you have on your explain handout, your explain notes for teacher, correlate to what we're carrying out in the notebook page? Yes? Is that helpful?
Will you
Okay.
just tell us the answers for 3 and 4? You don't have to
Oh,
write them.
absolutely. Okay, so it says we put the heavy books on top, right? That's going to be the compaction or the squishing of the materials in our cups. And then in the end, we leave this blank to start off and we come back to it and we have our kiddos share what changes did they notice when we actually get that mass or that clump of Jolly Rancher out, which is now our sedimentary rock, right? They tell us the changes they've seen. And y'all who did this last year, you see it like a lump. It's all stuck together, right? And so how did that happen? That was the sticky, sugary stuff in our Jolly Ranchers sticking together, just like the process of cementation. And so that's when you bring in the connection to that assessment question we saw, and not just for the assessment, right? But to solidify their understanding of how that is happening. How are these new sedimentary rocks forming? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing because that is us pausing for the formation of sedimentary rock. I'm going to open up our Educator's Edge. page so we can move into fossil fuel. So just give me a sec and I will get that up for you. Okay, so our sedimentary rocks are cooking over there. Hopefully we'll see some results at the end of this. As we transition into our model for the formation of fossil fuels, again, I want to show you we have the same engineering practices and we have the same recurring themes and concepts. We wrote these within the same learning target too, right? And so they're pretty much the same process, aren't they? Except one has what present? Tell me in the chat or out loud. I see some head nods. Yes, got it. Okay. Yes, one has that organic matter present, right? If you do not have organic matter present and this process occurs, you're making sedimentary rock. Oh, I see an interesting face, Kristen. What is that?
They had heat.
Oh, very good. Yep. Heat
But
and organic matter.
very good.
Very good, guys. Okay, so for the formation of fossil fuels, we are going to transition to our next investigation. You see, we will still be collecting observations. We will use models. We'll talk about the benefits and the limitations of these models. We will notice patterns, cause and effect relationships, and then that impact of stability and change will occur as well. So let me stop sharing this. I want to show you the Canva that you will be using to guide your students through this story. So again, in your curriculum, you have this Canva link, okay? And when you open up this Canva, I want you to also, and you can do it now or just watch me, it's totally up to you what makes you comfortable. But you're also going to want to have this notes section open. So I would highly encourage you to print out this Canva with the notes present. That's an option because this is where the story is going to take place, okay? So I'm going to pause that thought process and I want you to pull your materials closer to you because we are going to start carrying out this investigation together, okay? So get your materials close to you. I'm going to get my materials close to me. And we're going to start our little story here. So, boys and girls, did you know that 300 million years ago, ancient swamp areas filled with ferns and other swamp plants? Crazy, right? So for us to model this, what I would like for you to do, ladies and gentlemen, is take your first cup, and I'll switch my screen in just a moment. You're going to take your first cup and add a scoop or two, get a good layer of your moistened coffee grounds. I'm gonna stop sharing because you would be doing this in the classroom, right? You would share this story with them, and then you would potentially get your document camera up so they can see what you're doing. So let me pull that up. Okay. So here's my tool. See if I can turn it where you all can see. Remember, boys and girls, we have our moistened coffee grounds. And we are going to add that to the bottom of our cup. Give it a little shaky shake, pressy press so we can have a layer there. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, in our story, these are our ancient swamps with ferns and other plants. So to continue our story, we will then go to our next slide. 100 million years ago, a river begins to flow over the area. The river carries sand sediment that begins to build up. And this layer of sand sediment took millions of years. So, boys and girls, what we're going to do to represent this layer is we are going to crush up our Cheerios And we are going to add that on top of our coffee grounds. So I'm not going to go back because I don't want to make you sick. But go ahead, if you don't already, have your Cheerios crushed up and add that layer. I'll add and show you what it looks like. Once I get it poured. So remember, you're doing this alongside me. Here comes my document camera. And so now we have our coffee grounds, which were our plants, ancient plants, and we have our crushed Cheerios, which we know from our story is the sand. So then you tell them, let me pull up that one. 65 million years ago, the area begins to fill with water and forms a lake. Clay sediment begins to fall to the bottom of the lake, and a layer of clay is built up. So, boys and girls, to represent this part of the process, we are going to crush up Cocoa Puffs or Cocoa Pebbles, whichever you could find as long as it's brown. And we are going to add that layer to our cup. So go ahead and crush your Cocoa Pebbles, Cocoa Puffs, and add that layer to your cup. I wish I could see some of y'all. I see a little bit of movement. We're doing good, doing good. So you see my cup. I'm going to continue along in the story. Okay, guys, 1,000,000 years ago, this lake, it dried up and the wind began to carry all of this sand into the area. So for us to model that part of the process, we are going to crush up our corn pops now, and we are going to add those corn pops as our next layer. So when you can, get your next layer added. And we see our distinct layers there. Now to wrap up our story, we have our next slide, which I know you can't see, but you will when you have the opportunity to on your end, because I'm showing you my model right now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, over millions of years, this buildup of layers has caused a ton of pressure. And this pressure and heat from the earth, the heat's coming from the earth, causes changes to occur. So what we're going to do to represent those changes occurring is we are going to take a second plastic cup, and again, I'm getting this from the notes section. We're going to take our second plastic cup and we're going to use our fist to push down and mash and grind those layers together. So when you teachers have your layers in there, place your second cup and with your fist, you're going to mash and grind those layers together. Remember, this is heat and pressure. Pressure from the weight of the layers and heat from the earth. Because, boys and girls, you may not know this, but it's hot the further into the earth you go.
Jenna, I used to tell my students, like if you don't have the plastic cup and you just take your fist and you push it and grind it against your hand in the same way, you can feel the heat. And so I kind
Oh,
of would tell my students that as you're pushing and turning and pushing and turning, kind of the friction generates heat, and that's the heat that's modeling the heat from the earth. So there is a way to
absolutely. Yes.
identify a slight heat source in the model.
Yes. In our explain document for the formation of fossil fuels, which I'll share with you, we have that verbiage in there. Yes. So it's like you wrote this curriculum or something, ma'am.
Just, yeah.
Okay, teachers, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to check in on you and see your progress, and then we're moving into our explain piece for this. Try to highlight some individuals. Oh yeah, look at that model. Very good.
Sometimes I put a little bit of the Fruit Loops at the top to kind of to be the new layer to kind of that is now how it is. So in that way, this is our new layer because it has more color. So in that way, it's our current layer. So the kids see the different. So I kind of connected to the before too.
So to show them that the newest layers are on the top.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing? Cool. It's a cool extra piece.
No, like coffee enough, like the liquid.
Oh.
Mhm.
Say that again. Say it louder for everyone. About your coffee.
Oh. When we pressed it down, we noticed that some of that liquid from the coffee rose up to the top, so it tinted the layer.
Yes, absolutely. And so those are things too that your kiddos are going to start to notice, right? That we will touch upon in our explain here. So let me remove the spotlight. And I am going to share with you my camera again. Okay, so you see my model here, right? Now I want to show you just like we did for the formation of sedimentary rock, I'm going to show you what a journal entry could potentially look like, right? It looks a little blurry on my end. Let me see if I can focus. There we go. Beautiful. So you have your title, you have your date, you have the drawing of your model, right? And you have your steps there. So after your kiddos have crushed it with their fists, you're going to have them add this to their journal, right? You're going to have them write down all the things that occurred. And let me grab the link for you for that document as well. This is the explain document for the formation of fossil fuels. And remember, this is in your curriculum. So let me copy the link. Let me go to the chat. Okay, so the link was placed into the chat for you. I'm going to resume sharing of my document camera. Does everyone see the document camera again? Okay, great. So I'm going to use the document I shared with you in the chat, this explain formation of fossil fuels, to guide me through this portion with my students in their notebooks, because it asks me for my first step here, what was the first step in our process, boys and girls? What did we do? Do you remember from yesterday? What did we do? Yeah, we added those coffee grounds, right? Does anybody remember from our story what those coffee grounds were representing? Yes, a swamp. So on my model here, I'm going to add that this was a swamp, right? And in that swamp, we said it was ancient what? I'm just going to guess that yeah, organic matter. I believe this one was particularly ancient plants. Ancient plants. So yes, that organic matter. So we added the coffee grounds, and the coffee grounds are representing the organic matter. And so, right, brain wrinkle, we heard that in our assessment question, right? So bringing in that vocabulary so they're familiar with it. Okay, boys and girls, beautiful. So what did we do after that, right? I'm looking at my model here. We crushed the cereal. Okay. Well, thinking back to my Jolly Rancher lab and thinking back to what I just did, what step of the process might that be, the crushing of that cereal? Yes, y'all got it. It is weathering. And can anybody recall what might cause weathering? What are the three things we talk about that cause weathering? You got it. Wind. It can be caused by wind. It can be caused by water. And it can be caused by ice. You guys are on a roll. So what did we do after that? We crushed those Cheerios and then we did what with them? We see here, we placed them on the top of the coffee, right? And so thinking about the process occurring in real life, what was that representing? When we placed those Cheerios on top of the coffee, what was that representing occurring in the real world? It was sand. Yes. So it was sand being eroded and deposited. Very good. Sand being eroded and deposited. And that might confuse them, so just say erosion and deposition, right? We've heard of those words. I'm just using them a little bit different, so it makes sense in this sentence. So they were eroded and they were deposited. So I'm going to add that to my drawing. Right here is my sand. Boys and girls, do you see on this right side? It's what it was in my model, but on the left side is what it would be in the real world, right? In real life. Okay, teachers, do you get an understanding of how we'll carry out that explain with our journal page? Yes. So to help you with number 4, so right, we place the Cocoa Puffs on top of those Cheerios. Again, what is that representing? Erosion and deposition. And that was the clay that was formed, if you remember from our story. And then we also did the corn pops. We crushed those up. We put them on as the next layer. And that was representing another layer of sediment. I believe it was another layer of sand. Did I get that correct? Here, look, I can look right here, my notes page. Yes, Kristen is shaking her head. Beautiful. Another layer of sand. So then we used the cup and we smashed and we ground them together. This is again where you reiterate that pressure, right? The smashing, and I might do something like this. The smashing of that is the pressure that occurs because of these layers being built up over time. They're heavy. The sediment is very heavy. And then the grinding is that squishing of it together, right? And it squeezes those particles together. The grinding squeezes the particles together. And so I'm then representing the compaction that happens. So the smashing is our pressure. The grinding is going to cause compaction. And boys and girls, did you see what happened when we squished? What happened to that coffee layer, right? They'll tell you, oh, it started to seep, or hey, Sarah told me that it was seeping up earlier, if that's even the correct word, if it does seep up. But you know what I mean, right? That coffee layer was oozing into the other layers. And this is where you can reiterate that that is modeling cementation occurring and the squishing and the like gluing together of all of these layers. So the cementation, right, is when we have those layers stuck together and the coffee liquid moving into the layers. And in a moment, we're going to get into the explain piece of the presentation really quick. And this is where it connects this sedimentary rock being porous. And that's why that matter is able to seep up. Okay, you're doing a good job following along with me. I appreciate y'all. I'm going to show you the explain piece of the presentation really quick so you can see how that correlates to the notebook page. And so here in this presentation that is in your curriculum document, you would carry out the explain with your students, and you all would show them this screen, right? Layer 4, you had your corn pops. We turned them into sand. and that could make sandstone. And then you would add that information to your notebook page. So as you can see here, off to the left-hand side in my notes, it gives me that information. So the corn puffs represented a layer of sand sediment, and after millions of years, increased sandstone was formed. Remember, you have examples of these rocks in your lab too. So that would be a perfect time to pass around examples of the sandstone so they can feel it and get their hands on it. So they have that real world experience with it. So then we're moving up the cup, okay? So we have our Cocoa Puff layer. You'll explain this information to them. I'm gonna quickly hurry along because Kristen has a little bit to share with you before we're out of time. And then we have our Cheerio layer, so on and so forth. And we share this information with our students. So as you can see, this is a heavy one. We have our coffee ground layer, which was our organic matter. Share with them that the plant material is what forms the coal, okay? And here is where I was talking about the porous aspect of the rock. That property of being porous allows it to hold on to these fossil fuels. And so that's kind of like the magical piece with your students. And then we have a section here on the different kinds of fossil fuels and what forms them. So you see here, coal is made from ancient plants, right? Whereas oil and natural gas are the plants and animals that were present millions and millions of years ago. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. Thank you for following along with me, and I'm gonna lead you back to Kristen.
Thank you, Jenna. Excellent. Excellent. Share. Very good. Here I go. Okay. All right. Well, let's jump right into some of the pieces that are in your curriculum to also support you in the teaching this standard. So we just grabbed some snippets from the teacher clarification section, and you can see lots of graphics, charts, tables. We have the steps that that make up the processes, student misconceptions. So please be sure to read through this, look at the different graphics to help you make sure you understand the difference of those. This is what it looks like on your resources section of where it's organized in the 5E. So also, Jenna and I noticed right before we jumped on with you guys that in your unit at a glance, it's organized where you explore the formation of sedimentary rock. One day you do your engage, explore sedimentary rock, and then the next day you explain sedimentary rock. Then the next day you explore the formation of fossil fuels, and then you explain fossil fuels. And so we have our teacher support videos linked in here. We also have Savas. They have has resources. You have an elaborate. Let me show you these a little bit in detail. So here in your Savas, you have a read about it literacy station. This is in your student consumable workbooks. And they also provide a hands-on station. It's not as robust as ours are, but if you wanted to use it for a reteach or tutoring or any type of station you may have available, it's there for you as well. Of course, Savas has the key ideas presentation, the key ideas video, and the key ideas activity. I believe they put all of it together. So I would probably do just the formation of sedimentary rock, explaining it using the model, and then I would do the formation of fossil fuels and use the slide deck that Jenna was showing you to explain that model. And then I would probably come into these Savas resources to give a final explanation of all the pieces together. And this is where I would really kind of compare what was the same and different about both models. So you can identify that in the formation of fossil fuels, you have organic matter and you have heat present. So those resources are there for you. The Elaborate is asking students to create their own models of each process. So please know that a model is not doesn't have to be a physical model. These are two images of models. So you don't want to show these to students. You want students to create their own version of these. So you can use these for yourself, for your own type of anchor chart that you might want to make or something, but you want students to really create their own. And honestly, if students create their own and then share with the class, the more exposure students have to different ways to represent these processes, the better they're going to be set up for success. And then you have exit ticket, you have your Savas quiz, and it's not on here, but I believe you also have short constructed response prompts. Also, when you work with diverse learners, or really all learners, struggling learners, but visual representation is going to be key. So really using what the curriculum has for you already to help support those learners. You have beautiful slide decks with great images. You have hands-on models that they're developing. You can't get more visual than that. So now, with 3 minutes to spare, any questions that I can answer for you? I didn't see any collecting in the chat. Okay, well, with that said, because it is only 3 minutes left, if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat or unmute yourself and ask. I am going to go ahead and stop recording. If you're watching this asynchronously, you will want to go back into Schoology and take the quiz to make sure you get credit for attending. Everyone else, hang tight and we will get you your, did I hit stop recording? Nope, that's not what I want to hit. Did I stop recording?
I didn't
Okay.
hear it say stop recording. Nope, you're still recording. You're good. Yep.